Welcome to Read by Robin. This week we will be reading The Best Adventure featuring Casey and Camus from The Fantastic World of Lisa Frank. This book was written by Ronald Kidd. It was illustrated and is copyrighted to Lisa Frank Incorporated. Guest featuring is Hunter, also from The Fantastic World of Lisa Frank. So, let's begin. They were gold like the sun, and, like the sun, they rose early each day in the desert. Their names were Casey and Camus, and they were brothers. Today they had greeted the morning the same way that they always did. Camus was racing around looking for fun. And where was Casey? He had gone back to sleep. Camus took a running leap and landed on top of his big brother. "Wake up, Casey," he said. "Let's go chase the ball." Casey opened one eye and smiled sleepily. "Hello, Camus. Fine day for a nap, isn't it?" Camus hopped up and down on his brother, trying to get him to play. When that didn't work, he jumped off and found the ball. Batting it with his paw, he sent it bouncing right past Casey's nose. The nose twitched. Then Casey stood up. Yawning, he moved ever so slowly toward the ball. "That's it!" cried Camus. "Now we're having fun!" Casey reached the ball and kept right on going. Casey moved along inch by inch, sniffing the ground. Finally, he came to a beat-up old bone with teeth marks all over it. "My favorite bone," he said. "I've been wondering where this was." He settled back to the ground and began gnawing contentedly on the bone. Soon he was sound asleep again. Camus didn't want to sleep. He wanted adventure. He didn't know where to find it, but surely it couldn't be far away. Leaping over his brother, Camus went running off across the desert in search of adventure. He ran and ran until he came to a field. Stretched out before him were wildflowers in every color of the rainbow. Camus went bounding through the field. It was like being on top of a grand quilt. He found flowers of red, yellow, pink, and purple, but as hard as he looked, he could not find adventure. Just then, a tiny yellow creature darted through the air and landed on a blossom nearby. Camus lunged for it, but the creature was off, zipping from flower to flower. Camus was about to catch up when the creature turned suddenly and landed on his nose. Camus found himself staring cross-eyed at a bee. Startled, he lost his balance, and the bee buzzed off toward the clouds. Still determined to find adventure, Camus leapt to his feet and raced up a hill. Near the top, he saw a man outlined against the sun. The man seemed to be waving. Camus, who loved people, ran to the man and jumped up for a hug. But what he got wasn't a hug, it was a nose full of needles. The man was actually a cactus. Camus was tired and his nose hurt. Suddenly, he didn't want to find adventure. All he wanted to do was go home. When Camus got home, Casey saw what was wrong. Gently, carefully, he pulled out the needles. When Casey finished, Camus thanked his brother and nestled up against him. Casey said, "That's what being friends is all about, helping each other. And, you know, even though we're brothers, you're also my best friend." Aww. Then Casey asked Camus where he had been, and Camus shook his head sadly. "I went looking for adventure," he said, "but I didn't find it." Camus told his brother about the wildflowers and the bee and the cactus. As Camus spoke, a funny thing happened. His voice perked up and his tail began to wag. Listening to himself, Camus suddenly realized he had been wrong. "You know," he said, "I think I had an adventure after all. In fact, I had a day full of them." Casey smiled. "Those sound like good adventures," he said. "But if you ask me, there's something else that's better. It's the best adventure of them all." "What is it?" Camus asked Casey. "Friendship," Casey replied, "and a nap every once in a while." Casey kissed his little brother, and together they watched the sunset over the desert. Camus thought about tomorrow and wondered what new adventures it would bring. Thank you again for joining us for reading The Best Adventure. This is a collectible book, so it can be difficult to find anywhere. I cannot link to it on Amazon, for instance, because I do not believe it is for sale by anyone on there. So, if you ever want to hear it again, you can always read it here with me on Read by Robin. The comments are closed because this is considered kids content, and comments aren't allowed on kids content anymore. But you can still like the video and still subscribe to my channel. Thank you for joining me.